Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to talk about something that so many people deal with but often feels really misunderstood: health anxiety. We're going to get into what it is, what it actually looks like in real life, and, this is the most important part, the clear steps you can take to get the right kind of help.
So let me ask you this. Does this sound familiar? You've got this constant, nagging fear that something is seriously wrong with your health. Maybe you've seen doctors, you've had tests, they all come back clear, but that worry, it just doesn't quit. If you're nodding along, I want you to know you are definitely not alone. And this explainer is for you.
All right, so let's dive right in and get a clear definition. For a long time, this whole experience was just slapped with the label hypochondria, right? And that term, well, it always felt kind of dismissive, even a little insulting. But thankfully, the medical community has a much better handle on what's really going on now.
The official clinical term is illness anxiety disorder, or IAD, and this is key. It's not just being a worrier. It's a recognized condition. We're talking about at least 6 months of intense fear about having some serious illness, a fear that sticks around even when doctors and tests say you're okay. Calling it what it is, a real disorder, helps validate that the distress you're feeling is absolutely real.
Now, you might also hear about something called somatic symptom disorder, and it's really helpful to know the difference. With illness anxiety disorder, the main focus is the idea of being sick. The fear is about what might be wrong, and physical symptoms are usually pretty mild or not even there. But with somatic symptom disorder, the focus is squarely on the physical symptoms themselves. They are present, they are real, and they are causing a lot of distress. It's a small difference in focus, but it's a really important one.
So how does all this intense anxiety actually play out in your day-to-day life? Well, it usually shows up as very specific and sometimes totally contradictory behaviors. Let's take a look at what those patterns are.
And what's so fascinating is that there isn't just one way people react. You've got some folks who are constantly seeking out doctors and others who consistently avoid them. But look at that big number in the middle. 61% of people actually jump back and forth between the two. That just goes to show you how complex and cyclical this whole thing can be.
So first up, you've got the care-seeking pattern. This is really driven by a desperate need for reassurance. Someone in this pattern might spend a huge amount of time and energy going from doctor to doctor, doctor shopping, always pushing for just one more test, hoping that the next one will finally be the one that gives them peace of mind.
And this quote, it just captures that feeling perfectly, doesn't it? And the problem is, any relief you get from a negative test result, it's temporary. It fades so fast, and then the hunt for certainty starts all over again. It's just this exhausting cycle of hope and then disappointment, for you and for your doctors.
Then, on the complete opposite side of things, you have the care-avoidant pattern. In this case, the anxiety is so massive, so overwhelming, that the person just avoids anything and everything to do with medicine. They're terrified that a doctor's visit will confirm their worst nightmare, so it just feels safer to not know.
This is the core belief right here. It's not that people in this pattern don't care about their health. Of course they do. It's that the fear of what they might find out is so paralyzing that avoidance becomes the only way they feel they can cope.
And that brings us to the most common pattern of all, fluctuating. This is where someone gets stuck in a loop, cycling between those two extremes. They'll have a period of intense doctor shopping and test seeking, and then that's followed by a period where they can't even bring themselves to make a phone call to a doctor's office.
I mean, this quote just paints such a vivid picture of that emotional roller coaster. It's this constant push and pull between desperately needing reassurance and being absolutely terrified of what might be found. If that sounds familiar, just know you're not alone. It's actually the most common way health anxiety shows up.
Okay, so we've talked about what this condition is and what it looks like. But honestly, the most important part of this whole conversation is knowing that there is a clear, effective path forward. This is not something you just have to live with forever. Let's look at what actually works.
So, the road to managing health anxiety really is a step-by-step process. Step 1, it all starts with finding one primary care doctor you can trust and actually build a relationship with. From there, the single most effective treatment is a specific kind of therapy. And for some people, medication can also be a really helpful tool.
So what on earth is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT? Well, it's not just talk therapy. It's super practical. It's a skills-based approach that helps you actively change the thought patterns and the behaviors that keep that anxiety cycle spinning. It teaches you how to challenge those worst-case scenario thoughts, how to stop compulsively checking your body, and maybe most importantly, how to get comfortable with the natural uncertainty that just comes with having a human body. Okay, I know this can all feel like a lot of information, but getting started doesn't have to be some huge, overwhelming thing. The journey forward really begins with a few simple, totally manageable actions that you can take, like today. So here's your game plan. First, just acknowledge that your fear is real. Your distress is valid, even if the illness you're worried about isn't there. Then, try to find one doctor you can partner with. And when you see them, be upfront. Just saying the words, "I'm very anxious about my health," can change the entire conversation. And finally, feel empowered to ask specifically about cognitive behavioral therapy. It's the #1 recommendation for a very good reason.
And that brings us to a final question I want to leave you with. Just take a second and really think about this. Imagine all the mental energy, the time, the freedom you could get back. It's not about never worrying again. That's not realistic. It's about putting those worries in their proper place so that you can get back to living your life.